Nothing about this is random. I need you to hear that before anything else. What you have been experiencing, the quiet withdrawal, the strange distance, the sense that something underneath your life is rearranging itself while you stand there watching. None of it is confusion. None of it is breakdown. None of it is you losing something. That feeling you have been carrying, the one you cannot quite name, but cannot quite put down either. That is your aura in the middle of a complete reorganization. A full restructuring of your personal energy field. And the reason it feels so disorienting, the reason it is so hard to explain to anyone around you, is because what is happening to you is not happening on the surface where words live. It is happening at the level of your electromagnetic signature, at the level of the quantum field that surrounds you, extends through you, and broadcasts who you are to everything and everyone in your reality. And here is what I want you to know. Right now, before we go anywhere else, this process, this reorganization you are in the middle of, is not something that is happening to you. It is something that is happening for you. More than that, it is something that is happening as you. Because your aura does not reorganize randomly. It reorganizes in response to a shift in your core frequency. And when your core frequency rises, your field has no choice but to follow. It has to release what no longer matches. It has to recalibrate. It has to restructure itself around the new signal you are generating. That is what you have been feeling. The completion of a process most people never consciously witness in themselves. The moment when your personal energy field stops broadcasting the old signal and begins transmitting the new one. And once that reorganization completes, once your aura fully stabilizes around your elevated frequency, nothing low frequency can reach you the same way again. Not the same draining people, not the same exhausting patterns, not the same reality you have been living inside of. Because what reaches you is always, at the quantum level, a match for what you radiate. And you are about to radiate something entirely different than what you have been radiating for most of your life. Stay with me, because what I am going to show you today is not abstract. It is not metaphor. It is the actual mechanics of your personal energy field, the science of what your aura is, what it has been doing, and what it is doing right now in this moment of reorganization. And by the time we reach the end of this transmission, you are going to understand your own energy field in a way that changes how you move through every room, every relationship, every moment for the rest of your life. Let's begin with what is actually happening inside your field. Your aura is real. That is the first thing. Not a spiritual concept, not a metaphor for personality, not a poetic way of describing your mood. Your aura is a measurable, documented, scientifically verified electromagnetic field generated primarily by your heart. The HeartMath Institute, through decades of rigorous research, has measured this field extending several feet beyond the physical boundary of your body in every direction. It is detectable. It is quantifiable. It carries information. And it interacts with the fields of everyone and everything around you in ways that are now being studied with the same scientific precision we apply to any other electromagnetic phenomenon. Your heart generates the most powerful electromagnetic field in your body, approximately 60 times stronger in amplitude than the electrical activity of your brain. And this field, this pulsing, radiating, information-carrying electromagnetic field is what we are talking about when we talk about your aura. It is the primary signal you broadcast to the quantum field at every moment of every day. It is the frequency your reality reads and responds to. And it has been broadcasting something your entire life, whether you were conscious of it or not. Most of it you never chose. That is the part that matters. That is the part that explains everything you have been experiencing. Because most people go through their entire lives broadcasting a signal they inherited rather than a signal they chose, a frequency assembled from childhood conditioning, from old fears, from patterns absorbed from the people around them before they had the awareness to filter any of it. They radiate unconsciously. And an unconscious broadcast is a mixed signal. It contains contradictions. It contains old pain alongside genuine desire. It contains love and fear simultaneously. And the quantum field, which does not judge and does not interpret, simply reads that signal and assembles reality around it. Which is why so many people feel like they are working incredibly hard and still not getting where they want to go. Which is why the same patterns keep returning. Which is why the same kinds of people keep appearing. Not because the universe is against them, because the signal they are broadcasting is still carrying the old frequency, and the quantum field is faithfully, mechanically responding to what it receives. But here is what changes everything. Here is the shift that makes this moment so significant. When your core frequency rises, your aura begins to reorganize around the new signal. And that reorganization, that process you have been living inside of, is not comfortable. It is not supposed to be comfortable, because what it requires is the release of every pattern, every relationship, every habit, every belief structure that was compatible with the old frequency, but is not compatible with the new one. And that release, that falling away, that strange disappearance of things and people that used to feel like your whole world, feels like loss before it feels like liberation. But it is not loss. It is your field clearing. It is your aura making room. It is your electromagnetic signature restructuring itself around a higher coherence, a cleaner signal, a more powerful broadcast. And once you understand that, once you can feel the mechanics of what is happening, rather than just the discomfort of it, everything shifts. Because you stop trying to hold on to what is falling away, and you start trusting the process that is reorganizing you. Now let me show you what your aura has actually been doing while you weren't looking. Imagine your personal energy field as a sphere of living light, not static, not fixed, but constantly pulsing, constantly radiating, constantly interacting with the fields around it. This sphere extends several feet beyond your physical body in every direction. Above you, below you, in front of you, behind you, to your left, to your right. You are always at the center of this field, and the field is always broadcasting. Now, inside that field, there are layers. There is the layer closest to your body, which is the most dense and carries information about your physical state, your health, your vitality, your nervous system's current level of activation. There is a middle layer that carries emotional information, the frequency of what you are feeling, the coherence or incoherence of your emotional patterns. And there is an outer layer that carries what we might call your soul signature, the deepest, most essential frequency of who you actually are beneath all conditioning, all performance, all adaptation. Most people, for most of their lives, have a significant gap between their outer layer and their inner layers. The soul signature is radiating one frequency. The emotional and physical layers are radiating something quite different. And that gap, that incoherence between the layers of the field, is what creates the experience of feeling disconnected from yourself, of knowing who you are, but not quite being able to live from that knowing. of sensing your own potential, but not quite being able to access it. When your aura reorganizes, what it is doing is collapsing that gap. It is bringing the outer, middle, and inner layers into alignment. It is creating what the HeartMath Institute calls heart coherence, a state in which the rhythmic pattern of your heart's electromagnetic field becomes ordered, harmonious, and synchronized. And when coherence increases, something extraordinary happens at the quantum level. Your field becomes more powerful, not louder, not more aggressive, but more coherent. And coherent fields do something that incoherent fields cannot do. They organize the fields around them. They create what physicists call a coherent domain, a region of space in which quantum fluctuations become ordered rather than random. In simple terms, a coherent field influences its environment in ways that an incoherent field simply cannot. This is why certain people walk into a room and everything shifts. This is why some people's presence makes you feel calmer, clearer, more yourself. This is why you have met people whose energy you could feel before they said a single word. That is not personality. That is not charisma as we conventionally understand it. That is a coherent electromagnetic field doing what coherent fields do, organizing the fields around them. And that is what your aura is moving toward right now. That is the destination of this reorganization you are in the middle of. Greater coherence. A cleaner, more powerful, more aligned broadcast. A field that, when it enters a room, creates order rather than absorbing disorder. A signal that the quantum field reads with absolute clarity and responds to without ambiguity. You have been moving toward this your whole life. You just didn't have the language for it until now. If this transmission is landing in your field the way I sense it is, take a moment to like this video and subscribe so we can keep going deeper together. Now, let's keep going. Let me tell you about Mara. Mara had spent most of her adult life being good at fitting in. She was warm. She was adaptable. She was the kind of person others described as easy to be around. She had built a life that looked from the outside like it worked. The job, the apartment, the social circle, the routines, all of it assembled carefully, consciously, over years of effort. And for a long time, she told herself that what she felt underneath all of it, that quiet hum of something not quite right, was just anxiety. just the way life felt, just what it meant to be a person in the world. Then one morning, she woke up, and the life she had built felt like a costume she had forgotten she was wearing. Nothing had changed externally. The job was still the job. The apartment was still the apartment. The friends were still the friends. But something inside her had shifted, and the shift made everything look different. Not worse, exactly. Just different. Like looking at a painting you have seen 1,000 times, and suddenly noticing it was never quite the right painting for the wall it was hanging on. She started withdrawing. Not dramatically, not with explanations or confrontations, just quietly, gradually, instinctively. She stopped going to the gatherings that had always left her feeling emptier than when she arrived. She stopped reaching out to the people whose energy had always cost her something to be around. She started spending more time alone, which frightened her at first, because she had always associated being alone with something being wrong. But the alone time felt different than she expected. It felt like breathing, like her nervous system, which had been running at a low-grade hum of tension for so long she had stopped noticing it, was finally getting to exhale. She started sleeping differently, dreaming more vividly, noticing things she had always walked past. Small things, the quality of light in the afternoon, the way certain music felt like it was moving through her rather than just reaching her ears. The strange sense that the world was more porous than she had previously understood. She did not have a word for what was happening. She was not reading about auras or energy fields or quantum mechanics. She was just living inside the experience of her field reorganizing, without any framework for what it was. And because she had no framework, she sometimes thought she was losing her mind. She sometimes thought something was deeply wrong with her. She sometimes reached back toward the old life, the old people, the old patterns, just to feel the familiar ground under her feet again. And every time she did, it felt worse than the unfamiliarity she was trying to escape. The old patterns felt like shoes that had been resoled so many times the shape was no longer hers. They didn't fit anymore, and forcing them on hurt. So she stopped forcing. She stayed in the discomfort of the in-between. She let the old things fall away without chasing them. She let the silence be silence instead of trying to fill it. And slowly, so slowly, she almost didn't notice it happening. something new began to emerge, not from outside her, from inside her, from the center of her field. New ideas she had not gone looking for. New people who appeared in her life without effort and felt from the first conversation, like they had always been there. New opportunities that arrived not as a result of her forcing or striving, but as a result of her simply being more fully herself, as if the quantum field, reading her new, cleaner, more coherent signal, was assembling a reality that matched it. She did not know that is what was happening. But you do, because now you have the language for it. What Mara experienced was her aura completing its reorganization. What she felt as disorientation and loss was her field releasing everything that had been compatible with her old frequency and making space for everything that was compatible with her new one. And the new reality that assembled around her was not luck. It was not coincidence. It was the quantum field doing what it always does, responding to the signal it receives. Your aura knows what it is doing, even when you don't. Now let me take you deeper into the mechanics of what is happening in your field right now, because there is a specific process at work, and understanding it is going to change how you relate to everything you have been experiencing. When your frequency rises, and by frequency, I mean the dominant coherence pattern of your heart's electromagnetic field, your aura begins what we might call a resonance audit. It scans, in the most literal electromagnetic sense, the resonance compatibility between your new frequency and every element of your current reality. Every relationship, every environment, every habit, every belief, every pattern that has a presence in your field gets measured against your new signal. And anything that is not compatible begins to lose its resonance with you. This is not a metaphor. This is electromagnetic reality. When two fields are in resonance, they sustain each other. They amplify each other. They create what physicists call coupled oscillation, a state in which both fields synchronize and strengthen. But when two fields fall out of resonance, when the frequency gap between them becomes too large, the coupling breaks down. The connection weakens. The interaction becomes effortful rather than natural. And eventually, the fields simply stop sustaining each other. This is what is happening when the people in your life start to feel distant, when the environments that used to feel comfortable start to feel wrong, when the habits that used to feel normal start to feel like they belong to someone else. It is not that those things changed. It is that your frequency changed, and the resonance between you and them has broken down. Your field is no longer coupled with theirs, and your aura, in its extraordinary intelligence, is completing the decoupling so your energy can be freed for what is actually compatible with your new signal. The confusion you feel during this process is real, and it is understandable, because from the surface, it looks like loss. It looks like things falling apart. It looks like the world you built becoming unreliable. But from the level of your energy field, from the quantum level where the actual mechanics are operating, it looks like completion, like clearing, like the most intelligent, most loving reorganization your field has ever undergone. And here is the part that most people never learn, the part that changes how you experience this process completely. Your aura has been trying to do this for a long time. Long before you consciously felt the shift, your field was generating the new frequency. It was broadcasting the higher signal. And the reorganization that feels so sudden and so disorienting has actually been building for years, decades in some cases, of your energy field gradually, patiently, persistently moving toward greater coherence. What you are experiencing now is not the beginning of the shift. It is the completion of one phase and the beginning of another. The underground work has already been done. The frequency has already risen. The field has already changed. What you are living through right now is the visible, felt, sometimes uncomfortable process of your external reality catching up to the internal shift that already happened. Let that land. The shift has already happened. Your frequency has already risen. Your aura has already reorganized at its core. What you are experiencing now is the aftermath, the clearing, the making visible of what was already true at the level of your energy field. You are not in the middle of losing something. You are in the beginning of receiving something. And the receiving has already started, even if you cannot see all of it yet. Feel your field right now, not as a concept, but as a physical reality. Take a breath and let your awareness expand slightly beyond the boundary of your skin. Notice that there is something there, a quality of energy that is yours, that radiates from you, that fills the space around you. You have always had this. You have always been this. And right now, in this moment of reorganization, that field is more active, more alive, more electrically present than it has been in a long time. That aliveness you feel, that is not anxiety. That is your aura completing its recalibration. Now I want to take you into the practice, because understanding your energy field intellectually is one thing. Becoming conscious of your broadcast, actively participating in your field's reorganization, is another. And the difference between those two things is the difference between watching your light from the outside and actually turning it up from the inside. This practice is called the field alignment, and it is not a visualization exercise, not exactly. It is an actual, physiological, electromagnetic practice that works with the measurable reality of your heart's field to accelerate the coherence your aura is already moving toward. Find a position that is comfortable. If you are sitting, let your spine be tall, but not rigid. If you are lying down, let your body fully release into the surface beneath you. Let your hands rest open, palms facing upward or resting gently on your legs. And let your eyes close or soften your gaze until the outer world becomes peripheral. Begin with your breath. Not a controlled breath, not a technique, just your natural breath, but with your full attention on it. Notice the rise of your chest or belly on the inhale. Notice the release on the exhale. And with each breath, let your awareness settle a little more fully into your body. Not thinking about your body, being in your body. There is a difference, and your field knows the difference. Now bring your attention to your heart center. Not your physical heart, though that is there too, but the center of your chest, the energetic center of your field. And as you breathe, imagine that your breath is moving in and out through that center. Inhaling through your heart, exhaling through your heart. Let that image be soft, not forced. You are not making anything happen. You are simply directing your attention. And your attention is the most powerful tuning instrument your field possesses. As you breathe through your heart center, allow a feeling to arise, not a thought. A feeling, the feeling of something you genuinely appreciate. It does not have to be grand. It can be as simple as the warmth of sunlight, the feeling of a moment when you felt completely yourself, the memory of a laugh that came from somewhere deep and real. Whatever arises naturally, let it be there, and let it expand. Let it fill your chest. Let it radiate outward from your heart center into the field around you. This is not imagination. What you are doing right now, in this moment, is generating a coherent heart rhythm. You are creating the physiological and electromagnetic conditions for your field to move into greater coherence. The HeartMath Institute has measured this. When you breathe through your heart center while holding a genuine feeling of appreciation or love, your heart's rhythm becomes measurably more ordered. The electromagnetic field it generates becomes more coherent, and a more coherent field is a more powerful field. A more powerful field broadcasts a clearer signal, and a clearer signal receives a more precise response from the quantum field around you. Stay here for a moment. Keep breathing through your heart center. Keep letting that feeling of genuine appreciation expand and radiate. And now, as you sit in this expanded, radiating state, say this internally, not as an affirmation you are trying to convince yourself of, but as a statement of what is actually happening in your field right now. My field is reorganizing. My frequency is rising. What no longer matches me is releasing with ease. What is meant for me is already moving toward me. Feel those words as a description of your actual energetic state, not as something you hope will be true, but as something that is already true at the quantum level of your field. Because it is. The reorganization is already happening. The frequency has already risen. The release is already occurring. And the new reality is already assembling around your new signal. Breathe here for another few moments. Let your field settle into this coherence. Let the feeling of expansion and alignment become the baseline frequency of this moment. And when you are ready, gently bring your awareness back to the room around you, to the sensation of your body, to the breath moving naturally in and out. Notice how your field feels different than when you began. Notice the quality of the energy around you. That is not imagination. That is your electromagnetic signature at higher coherence. That is your aura, having just received a direct, conscious input from you. And your field remembers that. It carries it forward. Every time you do this practice, every time you consciously generate coherence from your heart center, you are training your field to hold a higher baseline frequency. You are making the reorganization faster, smoother, more complete. Your light is on. It has always been on. And now you are learning to turn it up deliberately. I want to pause here and ask you something, because your experience matters to this field we are building together. Have you had a moment recently where you walked into a room and felt the energy shift around you? Or where someone responded to you differently than they used to, as though they were reading something new in your presence? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know what your field has been showing you. Let's go deeper into what your aura is actually doing with the people in your life, because this is one of the most important and least understood aspects of field reorganization. And it is almost certainly at the center of what you have been experiencing. Your field does not interact with other people's fields the way we typically think about human relationships. We tend to think of connection as something that happens between personalities, between minds, between histories, and shared experiences. And those things matter. But underneath all of that, at the level that actually determines the quality and durability of a connection, what is happening is an electromagnetic interaction between two fields. When your field and another person's field are in resonance, the connection feels effortless. You feel more like yourself around them, not less. Your energy increases rather than depletes after time with them. The conversation flows without effort. The silence is comfortable rather than anxious. You do not have to manage yourself to be around them. That is resonance. That is two fields in coupled oscillation, sustaining and amplifying each other. When your field and another person's field are out of resonance, the opposite is true. The connection requires effort. You feel like you have to manage yourself, edit yourself, perform a version of yourself that is compatible with them. Time with them leaves you feeling drained rather than energized. The conversations feel like they are happening at the surface rather than at the depth where you actually live. That is incoherence between fields. That is two electromagnetic signatures that are no longer vibrating at compatible frequencies. Now here is the part that matters for what you are experiencing right now. When your frequency rises, some of the connections that were in resonance before will no longer be. Not because those people are bad, not because you are better than them, but because the electromagnetic compatibility has shifted. Your field has moved. And the gap between your new frequency and their current frequency may simply be too large for the old resonance to be sustained. And your aura knows this before your mind does. Your field begins to decouple from those connections before you consciously understand what is happening. Before you have had a single conversation about it, before you have made any decisions. Your energy field, in its extraordinary intelligence, begins to withdraw its resonance from what no longer matches it. And you experience that as the strange feeling of distance, of people you have known for years starting to feel like strangers. of conversations that used to feel meaningful starting to feel hollow, of the effort it takes to maintain certain connections becoming more than the connection seems worth. That is not you being cold. That is not you being selfish. That is not you losing your capacity for connection. That is your field completing its resonance audit and releasing what is no longer electromagnetically compatible with your new frequency. And while it can feel lonely, while it can feel like a kind of grief, what it is actually doing is clearing space. Clearing space in your field, in your time, in your energy, for the connections that are compatible with who you are becoming. For the people whose fields will be in resonance with your new signal. For the relationships that will sustain and amplify rather than drain and diminish. Those people exist. They are real, and your field is already broadcasting the signal that will draw them to you. You do not have to go find them. You do not have to force the connections. You simply have to complete your reorganization, stabilize your new frequency, and trust that your field is doing what fields do, attracting what is in resonance and releasing what is not. Your aura knows who belongs in your life at this frequency. Trust it. Now, I want to talk about something that most people in the middle of an aura reorganization experience, and almost nobody talks about, because it sounds strange. And yet it is one of the most electromagnetically coherent things that can happen during this process. The silence. There is a particular quality of silence that descends during a major field reorganization. Not the silence of absence, not the silence of isolation, but a deep interior silence that feels almost like the world has turned down its volume, like you have stepped slightly outside the stream of noise and speed and constant stimulation that most people live inside of, like something underneath all the surface activity has become very, very still. This silence is not emptiness. This silence is your field consolidating. When your aura reorganizes, it requires energy, significant energy, the same way that a physical transformation, a healing, a growth process requires the body to redirect its resources toward the process of change. An energetic reorganization requires your field to redirect its resources. And one of the ways it does that is by quieting the parts of you that are not essential to the reorganization. The social performances, the constant engagement, the noise of fitting in and keeping up, managing how you are perceived. All of that requires energy. And during a reorganization, your field reclaims that energy for the work of restructuring itself. This is why you have probably found yourself wanting less stimulation, wanting more quiet, wanting to spend time alone, or in very small, very specific kinds of company, wanting to slow down in ways that might feel strange to the people around you who are used to a different version of you. This is not depression. This is not withdrawal in the clinical sense. This is your field doing what it needs to do to complete its reorganization. It is drawing inward so it can restructure from the inside out. And the right response to this silence, the response that supports the reorganization rather than fighting it, is to let it be, to stop filling it with noise, to stop interpreting it as something wrong, to stop reaching back toward the old stimulation, the old busyness, the old patterns of engagement, just to escape the unfamiliarity of the quiet, because that quiet is where the new frequency is being established. That silence is the electromagnetic space in which your field is finding its new coherence pattern. And every time you fill it prematurely, you interrupt the process. Let the silence do its work. Let the quiet be the gift it actually is. Because on the other side of that silence, when your field has completed its consolidation and begins to radiate at its new frequency, you will not feel quiet anymore. You will feel luminous. You will feel alive in a way that is different from the aliveness you knew before. Not louder, not more frantic, but deeper, more real, more fully yours. The silence is not the end of your radiance. The silence is the room your radiance is growing into. There is something else happening during this reorganization that I want to illuminate for you, because it is one of the most extraordinary things your aura does, and it is almost never discussed in these terms. Your field is not just releasing what no longer matches you. It is also simultaneously drawing in new information, new frequencies, new possibilities that were not available to you at your previous frequency level. Because the quantum field, the vast, interconnected field of energy and information that underlies physical reality, is not a static library. It is a dynamic, responsive, living field that contains an essentially infinite range of frequencies. And what you have access to within that field is determined at every moment by the frequency of your own field. Think of it like this. Imagine the quantum field as an ocean of radio signals, every frequency that exists broadcasting simultaneously, all of them available, all of them present. And your aura is your radio receiver. The frequencies you can tune into, the signals you can receive, the information that can reach you is determined by the frequency range your receiver is calibrated to. If your receiver is tuned to one frequency, you receive what is broadcasting on that frequency. If your receiver shifts to a higher frequency, you suddenly have access to a completely different range of signals. Not because the signals weren't there before, because your receiver wasn't calibrated to receive them. When your aura reorganizes around a higher frequency, you gain access to a range of information, inspiration, connection, and possibility that was literally not available to you before. Not metaphorically unavailable, electromagnetically unavailable. Your field was not tuned to receive it. Now it is. And this is why, in the middle of what feels like loss and disorientation, you also sometimes have moments of extraordinary clarity, moments of insight that feel like they came from somewhere outside you, moments of knowing something you did not know before, not because you studied it, but because your field has become capable of receiving it. Those moments are not random. Those moments are your field in the process of reorganization, briefly reaching the new frequency and picking up signals from the range it is moving toward. They are previews. They are your aura showing you what it is becoming, and they are more frequent than you might realize if you know to look for them. Pay attention to the moments of unexpected clarity. Pay attention to the ideas that arrive fully formed, without effort. Pay attention to the knowing that comes from somewhere deeper than your thinking mind. That is your field in its new frequency, broadcasting and receiving at a level you are still growing into consciously. And the more you honor those moments, the more you trust them, the more you act on them, rather than second-guessing them back into silence, the faster your field stabilizes at its new frequency. Your aura is showing you your own future. The question is whether you are paying enough attention to see it. And speaking of those moments of clarity and expanded reception, I want to ask you this. Has there been a time when you felt your own warmth suddenly activate in a room? When your presence seemed to settle something in the people around you? When you could feel your own light doing something real? Tell me about it in the comments. These moments of conscious radiance are worth naming out loud. Let me take you back into the practice for a moment, because there is a specific technique for working with this expanded reception that your field is developing. And it is one of the most powerful things you can do during the reorganization phase to accelerate the stabilization of your new frequency. This is called the signal clarification practice, and it works directly with your field's expanded capacity to receive information from the quantum level. Settle into your body again. Let your breath slow and deepen. Bring your attention back to your heart center, and let the feeling of coherence that you cultivated in the last practice begin to return. You do not have to rebuild it from scratch. Your field remembers it. Simply direct your attention there. Breathe through your heart center and let the coherence reestablish itself naturally. Now, from this place of heart coherence, I want you to ask your field a question. Not your mind, not your analytical, problem-solving, logical mind. Your field. The question is simply this: what is the highest frequency version of my life trying to show me right now? Do not try to answer it. Do not go looking for an answer. Simply ask, and then open. Open your awareness the way you might open a window, not reaching out, but creating space for what wants to come in. Let your field receive. Let whatever arises, arise. It might be an image. It might be a feeling. It might be a word or a phrase. It might be a sense of direction, a pull towards something you have been hesitating about. It might be a release, a letting go of something you have been holding on to that your field has been trying to tell you is ready to leave. Whatever comes, receive it without judgment, without immediately analyzing it or questioning it or trying to fit it into what you already know. Simply receive, because this is your field at its new frequency, communicating with you, and the information it carries is more current, more accurate, more precisely calibrated to who you actually are than almost anything your analytical mind will generate on its own. Stay in this open reception for as long as feels right. There is no correct amount of time. Some people receive in seconds. Some need several minutes of quiet before the signal clarifies. Trust your field to know when it has given you what it needs to give you. And when you feel complete, take a breath. Let your awareness return fully to the room and notice what you received. Write it down if you can. Not because you need to analyze it immediately, but because your mind will try to dismiss it later. And having it written anchors it in your conscious awareness. Your field communicated something to you. Honor it enough to remember it. This practice, done regularly, not every day necessarily, but consistently, whenever you feel the pull toward it, is one of the most direct ways you can participate consciously in your aura's reorganization. You are not just waiting for the process to complete. You are actively receiving the information your field is generating as it moves toward its new frequency. You are becoming a conscious participant in your own radiance. That is the shift that changes everything. Not just the reorganization itself, but your conscious participation in it. Now let me show you something about your field that is going to reframe everything you have understood about the way reality works in your life. You have probably been taught, explicitly or implicitly, that reality is something that happens to you. That the circumstances of your life are largely determined by forces outside your control, by luck, by other people's decisions, by the economy, by timing, by 1,000 variables you cannot predict or manage. And while it is true that you do not control every variable in your external environment, what this framework misses is the most important variable of all: your field. Because the quantum field, the underlying energetic substrate of physical reality, does not assemble your experience randomly. It assembles it in response to the dominant frequency it receives from your electromagnetic field. This is not wishful thinking. This is the quantum mechanical principle of resonance, the principle that like frequencies attract, sustain, and amplify each other. And while the full complexity of how this works at the macroscopic level of human experience is still being explored by science, the underlying principle is as well established as any principle in physics. What you radiate, reality assembles around. Not sometimes, not when you are lucky, not when you try hard enough. Always, consistently, mechanically. Because the quantum field does not have preferences. It does not reward effort or punish laziness. It does not judge intention or evaluate worthiness. It simply reads the frequency it receives and assembles reality in resonance with that frequency. This means that the reality you have been living inside of, the patterns that keep repeating, the quality of what keeps reaching you, the texture of your daily experience, is a precise reflection of the dominant frequency your field has been broadcasting. Not a reflection of what you want, not a reflection of what you deserve, not a reflection of how hard you have worked, a reflection of what you have been radiating. And this is not meant to be a source of shame or self-blame, because most of what you have been radiating, you did not choose. It was inherited. it was absorbed. It was the frequency of your conditioning, your wounds, your old beliefs, your unexamined patterns. An unconscious broadcast, and you cannot be blamed for broadcasting unconsciously when you were never shown that you were broadcasting at all. But now you know. Now you have the language and the understanding to recognize your field as the creative instrument it is. And that recognition, that moment of becoming conscious of your own broadcast, is the moment everything changes. Because a conscious broadcast is infinitely more powerful than an unconscious one. Because when you know you are radiating, you can choose what you radiate. You can cultivate coherence rather than incoherence. You can generate the frequency of what you actually want rather than the frequency of what you fear. You can stop broadcasting the old signal and start broadcasting the new one. And your aura reorganization, the very process you are in the middle of right now, is the most significant step in that direction you have ever taken. Because the reorganization is not just clearing out what no longer matches you. It is clearing the space in your field for a conscious, chosen, deliberately cultivated frequency to become your new baseline. It is creating the conditions for you to become, for the first time in your life, a fully conscious radiator. Think about what that means. Think about what it means to move through the world broadcasting a coherent, conscious, chosen frequency. To walk into a room and have your field at the quantum level, creating order around you rather than absorbing disorder. To attract into your life, not randomly, not by luck, but by the precise electromagnetic mechanics of resonance, the people and opportunities and experiences that match your highest frequency. To be, in the most literal sense, a person whose presence changes the quality of the field around them. That is not a fantasy. That is quantum physics applied to personal radiance. And it is what you are becoming. Your light is on. It has always been on. And it is getting brighter. I want to talk now about the timeline of this reorganization, because one of the most common experiences during this process is the feeling that it is taking too long, that you should be further along by now, that the discomfort should have resolved, that the new reality should be more visible by now. And that impatience, that sense of being behind, is one of the most common ways people inadvertently interrupt their own reorganization. Because impatience is a frequency. and the frequency of impatience, of not yet, of why isn't this done, is a frequency that your field broadcasts, and the quantum field reads as a signal of lack, of absence, of the thing you want not being here yet. And the quantum field, reading that signal, assembles reality around it, around the not yet, around the absence. This is one of the most subtle and most important aspects of working with your field during reorganization. The way you relate to the process itself is part of the broadcast. If you are in resistance to the process, if you are fighting the discomfort, if you are in a state of anxious, waiting for it to be over, your field is broadcasting resistance and anxiety. And that frequency creates friction in the reorganization rather than supporting its completion. But if you can shift your relationship to the process itself, if you can move from anxious waiting to genuine trust, from resistance to participation, from fighting the discomfort to receiving it as information, your field shifts. The broadcast shifts. And the reorganization, which was always going to complete in its own perfect timing, completes more smoothly, more quickly, with less friction, because your field is no longer working against itself. This is not about forcing positivity. This is not about pretending the discomfort is not there. It is about changing your relationship to the discomfort from one of resistance to one of understanding. When you know that what you are feeling is your field reorganizing, when you can recognize the ache of releasing as the completion of a cycle rather than the loss of something essential, when you can feel the silence as consolidation rather than emptiness, the quality of your experience shifts. And your field, reading that shift, broadcasts a different signal. Trust the timeline of your own reorganization. Your field knows how long this takes. It knows what needs to be released and in what order. It knows what needs to be consolidated before the new frequency can fully stabilize. And it is doing all of that work with extraordinary intelligence and precision. Whether or not you can see the progress from where you are standing. The fact that you cannot see the full picture from the middle of the process does not mean the process is not working. It means you are in the middle of it. And the middle of any significant transformation is always the part that looks most like nothing is happening, right before everything becomes visible. You are not behind. You are exactly where your field needs you to be. Now let me show you something about the other side of this reorganization, because I want you to have a felt sense of where you are going, not just an intellectual understanding of it. I want you to feel the frequency of what your aura is moving toward, because your field responds to feeling in ways it does not respond to thought alone. Imagine, for a moment, that the reorganization is complete, that your field has fully stabilized at its new frequency, that the clearing is done, the releasing is complete, the old patterns have fully dissolved, and your aura is broadcasting your actual signal, your real frequency, your genuine luminosity, without the interference of old conditioning or inherited fear or unconscious patterns that were never yours. In this state, your field is coherent, fully, deeply, consistently coherent. And because it is coherent, it is powerful in the way that coherent fields are powerful. Not forceful, not aggressive, but organized, clear, directed. Your presence in a room creates a quality of ease rather than tension. People feel more themselves around you, not because you are doing anything, but because your field is coherent enough to create order in the fields around you. Conversations reach depth naturally. Connections feel real rather than performed. Opportunities arrive not as a result of striving, but as a result of resonance, because your field is broadcasting clearly, and the quantum field is responding with precision. In this state, the things that used to drain you no longer reach you in the same way. Not because you have built walls, not because you have become kodi or defended, but because your field is coherent enough that incoherent frequencies simply do not find purchase in it. They do not resonate with your signal. They pass through or around your field without the kind of impact they once had. This is what true energetic protection looks like. Not a wall, a coherent field. Because coherence is the most powerful protective force in the electromagnetic universe. In this state, you know yourself, not as an idea, not as a concept, but as a felt, lived, embodied reality. You know your signal, you know your frequency, you know what is yours and what is not. You know what belongs in your field and what does not. And that knowing is not intellectual. It is electromagnetic. It is your field at full coherence, reading the resonance of everything it encounters and knowing instantly whether it belongs. This is where you are going. This is the destination of the reorganization you are in the middle of. And it is not far. It is not years away. It is the natural completion of a process that is already well underway. Your field has already shifted. The frequency has already risen. The reorganization is already happening. What you are doing now in this transmission in this practice is simply becoming conscious enough of the process to support it rather than resist it, to participate in it rather than fight it, to trust it rather than fear it. And that consciousness, that participation, that trust accelerates everything. Feel that future state right now, not as a fantasy, but as a real electromagnetic frequency that your field can tune to in this moment. Let yourself feel what it would feel like to be fully coherent, to be broadcasting your actual signal without interference, to know yourself with that depth and clarity, to move through the world as a fully conscious radiator. Let that feeling be real in your body right now. Let your heart generate it. Let your field broadcast it, because your field does not know the difference between a vividly felt future state and a present one. When you feel it fully, your field broadcasts it fully. And when your field broadcasts it fully, the quantum field begins assembling reality around it. You are not just imagining your future. You are creating it right now. With your field, your aura knows the way. Trust it. Let me bring something into the light that I know many of you are carrying right now, something that needs to be said clearly and with care. Because in the middle of this reorganization, there is often a moment, sometimes many moments, when you wonder whether you are making a mistake, whether the releasing is actually loss, whether the silence is actually disconnection, whether the distance you feel from your old life is actually a sign that something has gone wrong rather than a sign that something has gone right. And in those moments, you reach back. You try to reconnect with what you have released. You try to fit back into the shape of who you used to be. You try to return to the frequency you were broadcasting before, because at least it was familiar. At least it was known. At least it was a version of yourself you recognized. And it does not work. And that not working is terrifying. And also, if you can receive it this way, the most loving confirmation your field can give you. Because your field, once it has reorganized, cannot go back to the old frequency any more than a caterpillar can return to being a caterpillar from inside the chrysalis. The transformation is not reversible. The frequency has risen. The coherence has increased, and trying to broadcast the old signal from a field that has already moved beyond it is like trying to tune a radio to a frequency that is no longer in its range. The mechanism has changed. The capacity has changed. The signal is different now. The reaching back does not work because you are not who you were when that reaching back made sense. And the part of you that is frightened by that, the part of you that grieves the familiar, even when the familiar was not good for you, that part deserves compassion. Real, deep, genuine compassion. Because it is not wrong to grieve a version of yourself that served you for a long time, even if that version is no longer who you are. It is not wrong to feel the loss of the known, even when the known was limiting you. It is not wrong to be afraid of the unfamiliar, even when the unfamiliar is your actual life. But it is important to know the difference between grief and error, between the natural mourning of a completed phase and the signal that you have made a mistake. And the way to know the difference is to feel your field. When you are in genuine grief, your field is moving through something. There is a quality of completion to it, even in the sadness. When you are in the confusion of thinking you have made a mistake, your field is contracted, tight, resistant, trying to go back. Grief moves, confusion contracts, and your field knows the difference. If you are in grief right now, let yourself be in it. Let it move through you. Let it be what it is, which is the completion of something real. The honoring of a chapter that mattered. The acknowledgement that who you were was worthy of being mourned, even as you release them. That grief is not a sign that you should go back. It is a sign that you are human, and that the transformation you are undergoing is real enough to feel. And when the grief moves through, as it will, as it does, as it always does, what remains is not emptiness. What remains is your field, clearer than it has been in years, broadcasting your actual signal, your real frequency, the luminous electromagnetic signature of who you actually are beneath all the conditioning and performance and adaptation. What remains is you, the real you, the one your aura has been trying to show you for a very long time. Welcome home. Now let me take you into the final layer of what is happening in your field, because there is a dimension of this reorganization that goes beyond your individual energy field, that connects your personal transformation to something much larger. And understanding it is going to change how you understand your own significance in this moment. You are not the only one undergoing this reorganization. Not by a long way. There is a measurable, documented shift in the collective electromagnetic environment of this planet. A shift in the dominant frequency of the shared field in which all individual fields exist and interact, and that collective shift is creating the conditions for individual field reorganizations to occur with a frequency and intensity that is genuinely unprecedented. This is not mystical speculation. The Schumann resonances, the electromagnetic frequencies of the Earth's ionospheric cavity, have been documented to be shifting. The global coherence research conducted by the HeartMath Institute has demonstrated that individual heart fields interact with and influence the collective field in measurable ways. And the collective field, in turn, influences individual fields. We are not isolated electromagnetic islands. We are nodes in a vast, interconnected field. And when the collective field shifts, individual fields are invited to shift with it. What you are experiencing in your personal reorganization is not separate from what is happening collectively. You are not having a private experience in isolation. You are one of many people across many different locations and backgrounds and life circumstances who are undergoing a similar reorganization at a similar moment, whose fields are moving toward greater coherence simultaneously, whose individual broadcasts are shifting toward higher frequencies in concert, even without coordination, even without awareness of each other. And this matters for your reorganization in a specific, practical way, because when many individual fields are moving toward coherence simultaneously, they create what physicists call a coherent domain at the collective level, a region of shared electromagnetic space in which the dominant frequency is coherence rather than incoherence. And being in that domain, being part of that collective movement toward higher frequency, accelerates and supports your individual reorganization. You are not doing this alone. You are doing this in a field of others who are doing the same thing. And your field, even without your conscious awareness of it, is being supported by and contributing to that collective coherence. This is why, when you find people who are in the same place in their reorganization, the resonance is so immediate and so profound. This is why certain conversations feel like coming home, even with people you have just met. This is why there is a quality of recognition, of being seen, of feeling less alone, that arises in the company of those who are at the same frequency, because your fields are in resonance, and that resonance is not accidental. It is the quantum field assembling community around your coherence. You are not alone in this. You are part of a field of people whose lights are turning on simultaneously. And the combined luminosity of those fields is creating something in the collective electromagnetic environment that has never existed in quite this form before. Your reorganization matters, not just for your life, for the field. Your light is part of something larger, and it has always been. I want to speak now to the version of you that has been carrying this process in silence. The version of you that has been living inside this reorganization without the language to explain it, without the framework to understand it, without anyone around you who could see what was happening and reflect it back to you clearly. That version of you has been incredibly brave, not in the dramatic, visible way that gets called brave, in the quiet, persistent, often lonely way that is actually the harder kind, the kind that requires you to trust something you cannot fully explain, to stay with a process you cannot fully see, to release what is familiar without knowing for certain what is coming, to let your field reorganize without being able to control the timeline or the specifics of what gets released or what arrives. That kind of bravery is not celebrated enough. It is not visible enough. It does not look like courage from the outside. From the outside, it often looks like confusion, or withdrawal, or going quiet, or falling behind. But from the inside, from the level of your field, it is the most courageous thing a person can do. To stay with the reorganization, to not force the old patterns back, to trust the intelligence of your own energy field, even when your mind cannot make sense of what it is doing. You have been doing that. You are doing it right now. And I want you to know, from the level of field mechanics, from the quantum level where your actual transformation is occurring, that it is working, that the staying with it is working, that the trust is working, that the releasing is working, that everything your field has been doing, everything you have been experiencing as disorientation and loss and silence and strange distance has been working. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not losing your way. You are in the middle of the most significant energetic transformation of your life, and you are navigating it with more grace than you know. Your field is reorganizing. Your frequency is rising. Your light is getting brighter. And the reality that is assembling around your new signal is going to be more aligned with who you actually are than anything you have lived in before. Nothing about this is random. Nothing about this is accident. Nothing about this is happening to you without purpose or without intelligence. Your aura has been orchestrating this reorganization with extraordinary precision, releasing exactly what needed to be released in exactly the right order, creating exactly the conditions for your new frequency to stabilize and your new reality to emerge. Trust it. Stay with it. Let it complete. And now I want to bring you to a place of integration, because the understanding you have received in this transmission needs to be embodied, not just intellectually held. It needs to move from your mind into your field, from concept into frequency, from something you know about into something you radiate. So let us do the final practice together. Come back to your body. Come back to your breath. Let everything you have received in this transmission settle, not into your thoughts, but into your cells, into your field. Let it become part of the frequency you are broadcasting, rather than just information you are holding. Breathe through your heart center. Let the coherence return. Let the feeling of your own field expand around you, several feet in every direction, pulsing with the electromagnetic reality of who you actually are. And from this place of coherence, let these truths become frequency declarations, not affirmations you are trying to convince yourself of, frequencies you are choosing to broadcast. Feel each one as you say it internally, and let your field carry it outward. My aura is reorganizing, and I trust the process completely. Feel that. Let your field broadcast it. Let the quantum field receive it. What is releasing from my life is releasing because it no longer matches my frequency. I release it with gratitude and without grief. Feel that. Let your field broadcast it. Let the quantum field receive it. My new frequency is stabilizing. My field is becoming more coherent with every breath. Feel that. Let your field broadcast it. Let the quantum field receive it. What is meant for me at this frequency is already moving toward me. I do not need to chase it. I only need to radiate clearly. Feel that. Let your field broadcast it. Let the quantum field receive it. I am a conscious radiator. I know my signal. I trust my field. I am broadcasting who I actually am. Feel that. Let your field broadcast it. Let the quantum field receive it. Breathe here. Let your field hold all of this. Let it settle into your baseline frequency. Let it become the signal you carry out of this transmission and into your life. This is your new broadcast. This is your aura at higher coherence. This is what the quantum field is reading from you right now. And what the quantum field reads, it assembles reality around. Your field is active. Your signal is conscious. Your light is on. Now, before we close, I want to ask you something. Because this community, this field of people who are navigating their own reorganizations simultaneously, who are moving toward coherence together, even from different corners of the world, is itself a powerful electromagnetic reality. And your participation in it, your willingness to be seen in the middle of your process, is a contribution to the collective field. What is the most significant thing that has released from your life during this reorganization? Not the most painful, though it may be that. The most significant. The thing that, looking back, you can recognize as your field completing a cycle, releasing a frequency, making room for something new. You do not have to share it publicly if that does not feel right. But take a moment to acknowledge it to yourself, to honor the releasing, to recognize it for what it was, not loss, but completion, not failure, but your field doing exactly what it was designed to do. And if you feel moved to share it, in the comments, in whatever space feels right, know that your sharing contributes to the collective field. That your honesty about your own process gives permission to others to be honest about theirs. That your willingness to be in the middle of your reorganization, visibly, without pretending to have it all figured out, is one of the most coherent things you can offer to the people around you. Your field is not just broadcasting to the quantum universe. It is broadcasting to the people in your life, to the community you are part of, to the collective field you are contributing to with every breath, every thought, every moment of genuine coherence. Make it a conscious contribution. Radiate deliberately. Let your field be the kind of field that makes other fields feel safer, more coherent, more capable of their own reorganization. That is what conscious radiance looks like in the world. Not performance, not perfection. Genuine, coherent, deliberate luminosity, the willingness to let your actual frequency be visible, to broadcast who you actually are rather than who you think you should be, to let your light be on even when the people around you are more comfortable with it off. Your light being on is not arrogance. Your light being on is your contribution to the field, and the field needs it. Genuinely, electromagnetically needs it. So let it be on. Let it be bright. Let it be yours. And now, as we close this transmission, I want to leave you with something to carry forward. Not as a thought, but as a frequency. Not as something to remember, but as something to radiate. You have been reorganizing. Your aura has been doing extraordinary work. Much of it invisible, much of it uncomfortable, all of it intelligent and purposeful and leading somewhere real. The distance you have felt, the silence, the releasing, the strange in-between quality of this phase of your life. None of it was random. None of it was accident. None of it was failure. It was your field doing what fields do when they are ready to broadcast at a higher frequency. Clearing, recalibrating, making room, restructuring around a new coherence pattern, releasing what was compatible with the old signal, and creating the electromagnetic conditions for what is compatible with the new one to arrive. And that process, the one you have been living inside of, is completing. Not because you forced it, not because you figured it out, because your field has done the work it needed to do. And the new frequency is stabilizing, and the new reality is assembling, and the new connections are forming, and the new version of your life that is in resonance with who you actually are is becoming more real with every breath you take at your new frequency. Nothing about this is random. Everything about this is intelligent. Everything about this is yours. Everything about this is leading somewhere more aligned, more luminous, more genuinely yours than anything you have lived in before. Your aura is active. Your field is coherent. Your signal is clear. Your light is on. It has always been on. Now you get to see it. Now you get to use it. Now you get to broadcast it consciously, deliberately, powerfully from the center of a field that knows its own frequency and trusts its own intelligence and radiates without apology. You are a field of quantum energy. You are a radiating electromagnetic signature. You are a broadcast that the universe reads and responds to at every moment. And what you are broadcasting right now, from this place of understanding, from this place of coherence, from this place of conscious participation in your own reorganization, is something extraordinary. It is the frequency of a person who knows their own light, who trusts their own field, who has stayed with the process long enough to understand it, who is ready to step into the full, conscious, deliberate radiance of who they actually are. That is you, right now, in this moment. Shine. Not because you should, not because someone told you to, not because it is the right thing to do, or the spiritual thing to do, or the thing that will make people like you. Shine because that is what you are. Because your aura is a radiating field of quantum energy, and it has been broadcasting since before you had words for it. And it will be broadcasting long after this moment has passed. And the only question that has ever mattered is whether you are broadcasting consciously or unconsciously, whether you are radiating your actual signal or a conditioned approximation of it, whether your light is on because you chose it, or dimmed because you forgot it was there. You have not forgotten. Not anymore. Your field is reorganizing. Your frequency is rising. Your light is on. Welcome to your own radiance. If this transmission is still moving through you, return to it in a quiet moment, in the stillness of morning, before the world rushes in, or in the softness just before sleep, when your field is most open and receptive. That is when it lands deepest. And if you know someone whose light needs reminding, share this with them. When you do, something real happens at the field level. Their awareness of their own radiance activates. Your fields enter resonance, and both are strengthened by the exchange. That is not a small thing. That is how the collective luminosity grows. One conscious act of sharing at a time. Your field is reorganizing. Your frequency is rising. Your light is on. And if you want to go even deeper into what your heart is actually transmitting at the quantum level right now, the transmission called What Your Heart is Actually Broadcasting to the quantum field right now is waiting for you. And your field is already resonating with exactly what it carries.